there was little to celebrate for struggling families all across our land. That all changes starting right here and right now, because this moment is your moment. It belongs to you.
Well, Inauguration Day is all over except for the dancing. But what does it all mean? I'm joined by Republican political analyst Jeff Simone and Democratic analyst Lisa Wong. She's the former mayor of Fitchburg. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Sue.
Good to be here.
Jeff, who is he talking about with this Washington that's making more money than you?
You're aware that like the top three wealthiest counties in America are those that surround Washington,
And what do they do
D.C.?
for a living?
They're mostly bureaucrats and lobbyists.
Lobbyists
and federal employees and bureaucrats.
So how does what the federal government, the employees of the CIA and the FBI and the Capitol Police and lobbyists, how is what they're making affecting the people in America?
Well, they're writing the laws so that it benefits the people and brings the money back to D.C. I mean, look, this is a very populist message. This is what got him elected. It's what almost won Bernie Sanders the nomination for the Democrats. And it hits home. I mean, this was a pitch to his base. I think Steve Bannon's fingerprints are all over this speech. It was smart. You're getting the memo went out from the DNC. I think that it was a dark image. But no, I actually thought it was one of his best speeches. I've been a strong critic of Donald Trump.
You have indeed.
But this is one of his best speeches. I give him a solid B+. He stayed on message, and he basically stuck to his guns on what got him elected. And I think from here forward, though, it's going to be less about speeches and the results he produces.
Lisa, what was your response to the speech today?
To be honest, it was very concerning. When you provide nothing new in your first official speech as the president, that makes me wonder what he has in store for the country. If he's speaking to the base, then what about the rest of us? And when he's saying things like, I will never ever disappoint you, I'm already disappointed. So again, if he's saying things that are not true, he's saying things that are only to the base, then really how is that unifying the country? How is that going to move us forward?
You know, there's no doubt about it that there are Americans that he and Bernie Sanders have talked to, related to, that have been left behind in many ways. But at, the Washington Post and PolitiFact, they fact-checked the speech and basically said, violent crime is way down all across America. It's still way below the 1980s and 1990s. The murder rate is up, but still way below the 1980s and 1990s. Manufacturing jobs are actually up this year compared to last year. And we've had a number of months, 30-plus months, where the unemployment rate has gone down and the jobs rate has gone up. Where is the...
It makes you wonder why Donald Trump got elected, right?
It does.
No, but it doesn't, because a lot of those numbers contradict what is going on in America and what he alluded to in his speech. I mean, these were the same arguments we've been having for the past 8 years, and they're a bit disingenuous. Yes, there's been job growth, but it's mostly been part-time job growth.
But
Yes,
we still have... Like, every economic specialist says automation is replacing jobs, not jobs moving to China. Why doesn't he address that?
How would you address that? You can't stop. That's progress. I mean, that's what makes goods more affordable and keeps jobs here. I mean, it is a trade-off. Yes, jobs are coming back, but they're not coming back in the same form. It is automation.
Lisa, can you address the minorities that are now the majority coming in America here? Has he done anything to put some salve on the hurts that people feel that they've had?
Absolutely not. I mean, certainly, if he's talking about jobs and the job numbers are good, he's not talking about the fundamental things that we need. I mean, certainly there was talk about infrastructure, but what people really need is they need good government. They need investment in public health and public education. And those are things that are absolutely under fire. Those are the things that I'm very concerned about, because those are the kinds of things that are going to help those in our inner cities and the suburbs have the tools they need to compete in a globalized economy. We cannot ignore the fact that this is a global economy. We cannot go back to isolationism and then also invite other countries to be isolationist too.
You know, it's hard, Jeff, to think of this as anything but a dark speech when the term American carnage was used. I can't imagine a time when American carnage would be appropriate, except after, maybe the civil rights battles of when they were losing in the 1960s or World War II. I mean, are we really at a point of American carnage?
Have you heard about what's taking place in Chicago right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would qualify that as carnage. Every single week, There are dozens of shootings.
But here
This
in
summer there
Boston,
were.
our violent
But
crime
we're
rate is
ta-
down.
Great,
And around
yes.
urban communities
Yes.
all across America,
And
it's
in
down.
places all across this country, the contradictory message of what we've been hearing for the past 8 years is the reality. Okay, you have Detroit, you have Chicago, you have smaller cities like Flint, you have upstate New York, which have been ravaged in the Rust Belt, and they're feeling the actual effects of it, no matter what the mainstream media or Democratic politicians are trying to tell you. I mean, if this is the same note that's going to be going forward for 4 years, Democrats are going to have a very hard time getting reelected. We've got to come to a point where there's a little more honesty in what was really going on in the country and what Democrats can do. But if it's constant hysteria and denial of reality that is taking place in places like the Rust Belt, Donald Trump won Pennsylvania. He was down in the polls by a solid 5% the entire election. The entire election. And he won Pennsylvania. That has to wake somebody up. If it's not going to wake up, you're looking at re-election in 4 years.
Well, that message could wake you up, but if you're then going to put the fox in charge of the hen house, then we have some major problems here. If you're basically looking to replace, trickle-down economics that didn't work with trickle-down politics, I mean, I see a bunch of elitist billionaires who are now going to be in charge of major sectors of the economy. And if you're looking at business people that have disinvested in government, and then those in turn want to point at government and say, well, government was at fault, when they actually should look at the mirror, and then they're going to be in charge of government. I say we have a big, gigantic conflict of interest going
I
on
said
right
this
now.
last night, and I'll say it again tonight. When Barack Obama took office, I was a second-class citizen as an open lesbian in the United States of America. Today, I'm almost a full-class citizen. What's your recollection? What are your feelings about the past 8 years of Barack Obama?
I certainly like the legacy that he is leaving, I mean, with a strong economy, but also with a lot of hope. Certainly that's being tempered and countered right now with some really rough and harsh message from our current president. But I do believe that people on the ground, the fact that the majority of Americans voted for Hillary Clinton, there's still a strong message out there that is resonating, and a lot of folks are going to be making sure and paying a lot more attention that rights are protected, that our health care is protected, that our economy, public education, things that we believe in, things that are about the foundation and the fabric of our communities are protected.
Jeff, let's talk about Hillary Clinton a little bit. She had to put her big girl pantsuit on today. President Trump did not acknowledge her during the speech, but he did at the luncheon afterwards and did shake her hand. What's your reflections now on Hillary Clinton?
I think she had a lot of class today. I admire her for going to there. I mean, it takes a lot of guts when you've been defeated to go to an inauguration of your opponent. I think it shows a lot more than some of the Massachusetts congressional delegation that didn't bother to show up and boycott it. I thought that was childish and silly, especially Catherine Clark and Michael Capuano. I think that's shameful. I mean, they're members of the federal government, and if Elizabeth Warren, who is probably diametrically opposed to Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton can appear at the inauguration, so should each and every one of them.
So, speaking of Elizabeth Warren, tomorrow we have a big protest happening here in Massachusetts as well in Washington, D.C. Elizabeth Warren is going to be at the Boston protest, the Women's March. There have also been violent protests that happened in Washington, D.C., and a lot of people are taking aim at the violent protesters saying, listen, you're not part of our peaceful protest against Donald Trump. But what's your reaction as you consider both of the protests as well as other protests happening, Lisa?
Well, I think that a lot of people are definitely hurting and they're not knowing what they're going to do. I think the inauguration speech today did not provide any sort of roadmap moving forward. I think that it was an inflammatory speech that really didn't speak to a lot of folks. I think that peaceful protest is a bedrock of democracy. I certainly hope and believe we're going to see that tomorrow. Certainly I don't like seeing any violent protests that are happening, but I think that there is an anger that exists. Whether it's in the Rust Belt, the inner cities, whether it's people in the street, that needs to be addressed. But unfortunately, right now, we're talking in sound bites. We're having a president that talks in sound bites, and I think we need to roll up our sleeves and make sure that we get to work.
All right, thanks to both of you for coming in. Jeff, see you soon. Lisa, thanks for coming in. All right, next. There were many who doubted Donald Trump, but today it was the true believers who